In the early 1900s, Europe was this amazing place of glittering empires and mind-blowing new technologies. But just under that shiny surface, things were tense. Nobody, and I mean nobody, was ready for what was coming. A war that would literally shatter those empires and completely redraw the map of the world. So, how on earth did it happen? Let's get into it. And then, boom, all of a sudden, newspapers everywhere looked like this. Germany declares war. All Europe is in arms. What started out as a crisis in one corner of the continent was just exploding into a total catastrophe, sucking in country after country into a fight that most people just did not see coming. It's really the big question, isn't it? I mean, it sounds almost impossible. To figure it out, we've got to look at two things: the single gunshot that lit the fuse, and the massive, massive powder keg that all of Europe had been sitting on for years. Okay, so it all starts on one really fateful day in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia. This is the spark, the one that's going to set the entire world on fire. So, picture this. It's June 28th, 1914. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, who's next in line to the Austro-Hungarian throne, is visiting Sarajevo. Well, a group of young nationalists has a plan. Their first try, a bomb, actually fails. It just injures a few officers. The Archduke, unbelievably, decides to just carry on with the visit. But then, a totally random mistake happens. His driver takes a wrong turn, and the car stalls right in front of another assassin, a 19-year-old named Gavrilo Princip. He does not miss. 2 shots, and the Archduke and his wife are dead. Now, Princip wasn't just some random, angry teenager. He was part of a secret society called the Black Hand, and their goal was super clear: get Bosnia out from under Austro-Hungarian rule and make it part of Serbia. So this wasn't just a murder, right? It was a huge political statement, and it was powered by this intense wave of nationalism. But here's the thing. An assassination, even of a guy this important, usually doesn't kick off a world war all by itself. That murder was really just the spark. So now let's talk about the powder keg, the conditions in Europe that made a huge war like this even possible. So yeah, why was the whole continent so tense? Well, historians usually boil it down to 4 main causes. 4 big isms that created this atmosphere of, suspicion, competition, and just plain fear. First up, we have nationalism. And we're not just talking about loving your country. This was an aggressive, we're better than you kind of pride. It made countries like Germany and Britain super competitive with each other, and it totally lit a fire in places like the Balkans, where different ethnic groups were desperate to break away from the old empires and start their own countries. Second, imperialism. All the big European powers were in this mad dash to build huge global empires. They were all scrambling for colonies and resources, mostly in Africa and Asia. And all that competition abroad just created more tension and mistrust back home in Europe. Third on our list is militarism. You see, the Industrial Revolution wasn't just about making cool new trains and factories. It was also about making deadlier weapons, and lots of them. This set off a huge arms race. Germany builds up its army, so Britain builds a bigger navy. In fact, Britain had a policy of building 2 warships for every one that Germany built. Kind of wild, right? Everyone was getting ready for a war that they all said they were trying to avoid. And finally, alliances. And honestly, this might be the most important piece of the whole puzzle. To feel safe, all these countries started making secret treaties and military alliances. It created this tangled web that basically acted like a tripwire. An attack on one country meant all its friends had to jump in and defend it. So a tiny, local problem could now instantly become a war across the entire continent. And the result of all these alliances was a continent basically split right down the middle. As you can see on this map, you had 2 huge armed camps staring each other down: the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente. There was hardly any neutral grounds left. So here's a quick breakdown of who was on which team. The Triple Entente became the Allied powers. That's France, Great Britain, and Russia. The Triple Alliance became the Central Powers, led by Germany and Austria-Hungary. And as the war went on, you can see other big players got pulled in, from the Ottoman Empire to, eventually, the United States. All right, so you've got the spark with the assassination, and you've got the trigger mechanism with the alliance system. Now, Europe is moving super fast towards the point of no return. The whole diplomacy phase was really short, and, well, it was fatal. So Austria-Hungary, with Germany basically giving them a blank check of support, decides this is their chance to crush Serbian nationalism for good. They send Serbia an ultimatum, a list of demands. And this list was deliberately made to be so harsh and humiliating that Serbia would have to say no, giving Austria-Hungary the perfect excuse to declare war. But to everyone's surprise, Serbia was like, Okay, fine, and agreed to almost everything. But they said no to one crucial point. They wouldn't let Austro-Hungarian officials come into Serbia to run the investigation. They said it violated their constitution and their sovereignty. And that one no was all Austria-Hungary needed. And that was it. The tripwire was hit, that whole complex system of alliances that was supposed to keep the peace, it did the exact opposite. It kicked off a chain reaction that nobody could stop. I mean, just look at how fast this all went down. July 28th, exactly 1 month after the assassination, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. Russia, who sees itself as Serbia's big brother protector, starts mobilizing its army. Germany sees that as a threat, so it declares war on Russia. Germany knows France is Russia's ally, so 2 days later, boom, they declare war on France. The dominoes were just falling, one after the other. So you might be wondering, why did Germany jump on France so fast? Well, it was because of this thing called the Schlieffen Plan. It was a military strategy they'd had for years. The idea was to launch a lightning-fast attack to knock France out of the war before Russia could get its huge army ready to fight. But there was a huge problem with the plan. It meant invading the neutral country of Belgium. And the moment German soldiers crossed that Belgian border, Great Britain, who had promised to protect Belgium, declared war on Germany. And just like that, in a little over a month, a single assassination had led to all the great powers of Europe being at war. The stage was set for a conflict bigger and more brutal than anything the world had ever seen. So when you step back and look at the whole picture, you see it wasn't just one thing. It was a total perfect storm. You had the spark of the assassination. It landed on the powder keg made of nationalism, imperialism, and militarism. And the whole thing was connected by that alliance system, the tripwire that made sure that once the fire started, everybody got dragged into it. And that kind of leaves us with a pretty chilling thought, doesn't it? The alliance system back in 1914 was built to guarantee peace, but instead, it guaranteed a world war. It really makes you wonder, what complex systems do we rely on today to keep us safe? And how could they fail in ways we can't even imagine?